with social media or real estate, it's the same journey of, hey, this ain't gonna happen overnight. Somebody has to be able to, have experience, but then also have this content creating ability. Why don't I just be the person that they watch? Like, it just made sense to me.
Hey everyone, welcome to Broadcast Your Authority with Tamara Thompson. I'm your host, and I'm joined by some incredible co-hosts today. Thank you all for being here. I'm super grateful for this guest that we're bringing in today, Ryan Pineda. He actually started in the real estate industry in about 2010 as a realtor, but he soon found out that that was not his passion, which we have all figured out a lot of times. Certain things are not our passions, right? And so back in 2015, he had about $10,000 in his bank, and he decided to flip houses. And that's really where he started in his real estate industry, which has led into a lot of other great opportunities for him. And now he's holding amazing events like WealthCon and building huge, massive communities, and has over millions of followers across social media, and is an extremely intelligent, smart, and kind human being. So I'm so glad and grateful for you to be here today, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, last time I saw you were hitting up the golf course. So
that was fun.
I love golf.
Yeah. No, you did good. That was
a good time.
Day.
But
yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to hit up the course again sometime.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I had a great time. And well, first off, so since you did start off in real estate back then, like, what was it like going from, this is way back, but what was it like on your first flip? Like, what do you know now, like, that you wouldn't apply now? Because you don't really focus on flips anymore, but what did you learn from that experience?
Man, that first house flip was, I guess, scary because you don't really know what you're doing. And, I didn't have money. So I just got a hard money loan, and I maxed out all my credit cards so I could get the down payment. And thankfully it all worked out. That house, it was just on the MLS, and just made a lowball offer on it. They said yes. And it really didn't need much work. It was just like, I got a good deal. And so, I relisted it 2 days later and got a full price offer. And, I made $25,000. And so it was, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say we could have gotten any luckier or did any better. It was definitely a blessing.
That's great. I think when you step into the real estate industry, everything's just new. And what made you step into it? Why were you passionate about going into real estate? Was it the thought of like building wealth or in the beginning, or what really got you into real estate?
Today, maybe there's young kids who are passionate about real estate, but when I was growing up, I don't think anybody thought of themselves as becoming a realtor or a real estate investor. It wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. I was passionate about playing baseball, so I played pro baseball with the Oakland A's for, years, and real estate was definitely not a passion. And even today, obviously it's helped me get to where I'm at today. Mm-hmm. And I do have some level of passion for it, but I can't say it's even still ever become this big passion. Like, I love seeing a renovation or, a stabilized, it's cool.
Yeah.
But, I don't wake up every morning looking for deals.
And you have a stronger passion now to help actually more people.
Yeah.
In that point. And
for sure.
So were you going to jump in on there?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, how much, knowing that you played professional baseball, is it about being competitive?
Oh man. That's the thing I'm trying to just instill in my company is competitiveness. I want people knowing that, hey, you better level up. If you don't, there's somebody right behind you coming to take your cookies if you don't. And so competitiveness is huge.
Yeah. And it seems like it's a dirty word. It's like winning, like the word winning. It's like I said, well, I don't care how we get there. I just want everybody to be nice and moral, and but we win. I want to win. That's it. So let's figure out how we win. And people are like, well, that's kind of they don't like that word.
Yeah.
But that's you have to be competitive. You have to know what the person behind you is doing that you're not doing.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with some leaders in my company, and I said, look, the most successful people in the world that I know don't do anything for the money. They don't do it for all the benefits that come with success. Most of them do it simply for the fact of wanting to win and be the best. When you look at a guy like Kobe Bryant, he wasn't playing basketball for the money. It was like, yo, I'm here to win. That's all I want to do. You know, when you look at like what Elon Musk is doing, it's like Elon Musk doesn't do anything for the money. At this point, he's just like, I want to win. I want to do these next things. And every successful person I know is like that. Money doesn't fuel them, just winning does.
Right. And if you win, the money comes. And, you know, it's nice. But if you focus on that, it never comes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Can't be the objective.
Absolutely. So if I can ask one question about baseball. When you played, what was it like knowing there was somebody sitting on the bench that would high five you and be your friend, but was hoping that you get an ankle injury so you can come out and they can come in?
Yeah, dude, it's a weird dynamic, man, because on one hand, we're all part of the team and we want to win. You know, we have that goal of winning the championship, right? But at the same time, we all know that in order for us to get to the next level, we have to elevate ourselves above whoever's above us. Now, I don't need them to break their ankle for me to be better. Like I can just focus on me, and it's like, hey, if I'm that good, then there'll be a spot for me somewhere. Maybe it's not with this team. Maybe it's going to be with another team, right? But you know, that's the whole mindset I'm trying to just even make in our company is like, hey guys, I want you to be aware of where you stand in the pecking order, but I don't want you to think you need somebody else to fail for you to rise. You should just rise. And guess what? If you do rise, there's going to be more opportunities overall, period. Like you'll create more opportunities because of your performance.
But just be ready. Kind of like Zach Wilson when Rodgers went down. Just be ready to get into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's critically important that because when you're not the guy everybody's looking at or the girl everybody's looking at, you say, oh, my time will never come. But when it does come and you're not ready, that's the worst place to be.
Yeah. I mean, even take a guy like Zach Wilson, right? I mean, this guy's the second pick and he hasn't won. He hasn't performed the way he's supposed to. And so they bring in Rodgers, you know, one of the greatest ever. And he's like, dang, dude, like, where do I stand now? Do I even have a career? You know, if he's good, he's definitely playing. And then boom, hurt within minutes. And you're like, all right, now's my chance. But guess what? If he doesn't take advantage of it, he's probably done.
Yeah. And he had to be ready within a second.
Yeah.
Like he had to know the plays. It was pretty intense just to watch. And they won the game. But they lost yesterday.
The one thing I will bring up about sports that's interesting versus other jobs and careers is that there is a lifespan. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who was the second overall pick just a couple of years ago. And we're saying, hey, if he doesn't make it this year, he's done, right? In real estate, in business, that's not the case. We have a bad year in real estate. All right, whatever. I'll do it the rest of my life. And like, I'll get back on the horse and make it happen. Sports is the only career really where you look at it and you're like, there's truly a very limited time frame to do this. And if you don't do it, you're done.
Right. And there's you can't go back on the shelf and then come back. It's over.
No.
There's a new kid on the block.
But we've all recovered in business, you know? We've all had massive failures and people say we couldn't do it. And then guess what? We just go start a new business. We rebuild, we do whatever, and we can do it the rest of our life.
What's been on the side of building like your real estate empire, what's been your favorite part about it and what's been the most challenging part about it?
On the real estate side of things, I mean, favorite, most challenging, I would say, you know, I got started in flipping houses. And so, you know, 2015, we start. By 2018, I was doing over 100 flips a year. And even to this day, we'll still do 100 plus flips or wholesales a year. I think the hardest part is that you realize that there are certain aspects of real estate that aren't scalable. And so you're like, all right, like this kind of is what it is. I'm not going to go flip 500 homes a year, right? I mean, that's how you end up like Zillow. It's really hard to do. So then you're like, all right, well, what do these other guys do? Well, they buy multifamily, they get into development. You're like, all right, you know, these are the next opportunities. And it's great. But I would say that for me, what I realized very early in real estate was that it is the slow way to wealth, no doubt about it. It requires a lot of cash, all these things. Even when you get to the big levels, it's like, yeah, you start a fund and, you know, the investors are going to make the majority of the money. And I'm like, man, business is very different than that. You know, if like you're in business, your multiples are crazy at exits. You don't give all your money to everyone else for doing all the work. Like, requires way less capital to build. So I guess the hardest part of real estate is realizing that it's great for 99% of people if you want to be, you know, a millionaire, a multimillionaire, but like very few billionaires build it through real estate.
That makes sense. With the current market right now, I think in one of our last conversations that we had, you were talking about like how you weren't really focusing on flips, but doing more towards like wholesale and stuff like that. Is that your current focus right now for the rest of this year, or what are you kind of looking or seeing for 2024?
Yeah. I think we're going to continue to wholesale as the majority. And, like we have coaching programs now. So like one thing we're launching is kind of like a partnership program with our students. So,
That's awesome.
we can build a huge sales team that we're really good at, right? So if we can train people to generate leads and we can go close them, we will,
we will.
Right? So, it's like that can be, now that to me is a fun way to scale, because now, from a student perspective, you're helping people get deals they wouldn't have got. From our perspective, you're getting leads that are now free. So it's pure net margin. And, from a risk perspective, there's really no risk on either party. And so it's very different than flipping.
In your community, you have thousands in your community right now that you're helping coach right now, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. How long did it take you to build that community aspect? I know, Pace Morby is amazing at building communities too in real estate. Like you guys are crushing it on the side of building communities. Like what like jones you up about like building, the side of a community side to help other people?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to building the community that you're actually looking to build, right? And so for me, it's being intentional with the people you want and the people you don't want, right? It's not about just numbers and having X amount of people. And so like, if you come to our events or coaching programs, you're going to see like a very specific type of person, right? Like, cause I'm very public about my faith. So we get a lot of Christians. So we get, like at the next WealthCon, it's going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to have over 1,000 people, and I'm going to have a full on worship service with a pastor and like, just cool stuff. So it's just very different on what you're trying to build that doesn't really exist. So I get a lot of joy out of building. That's really what I get joy out of, building something that doesn't exist, that serves a need.
When did you realize that social media and building marketing through that platform was the way to go? Like because so many people either aren't good at it, or they don't realize the importance of it. When was the moment you're like, we're going deep?
Yeah, it was in 2020 during COVID. So what happened was I was, flipping. That was obviously my main source of income. And we had 50 flips here in Vegas when everything got shut down. And, the news was like, everything's going to crash. This is crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I don't think that, but let's just hedge bets. So what are we going to do? I can't even go outside. I'm going to die if I walk out my door. So, all right, what am I going to do? What's everyone else doing? Well, they're looking at their phones all day. They're watching YouTube. They're watching the news. And I'm like, why don't I just be the person that they watch? Like it just made sense to me. And I had noticed that social media was growing. It was like, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this thing, TikTok, started to come on the scene, and
same with podcasting.
Podcasting started to grow. And I'm just like, you know what? Who are the top guys right now? And so I just start doing research. I'm like, all right, this is a top guy. This is the top guy. This is the top guy. And what I realized about all these top guys is they weren't really business people. Like they were really, they were professional YouTubers and content creators. Like they weren't necessarily real estate investors. They'd done some deals, but they weren't doing 100, So I looked at it and I was like, well, there's a huge hole in here. Like just somebody has to be able to, have experience, but then also have this content creating ability that most of these real estate guys don't have, right? Most of these real estate guys, as we know, we were just talking about this, like they're all maybe kind of like older guys with, they just do their thing, and they were taught to move in silence and stay low key. And that's, the way it was. And I looked at it and I'm like, well, that's not the way it's going to be. Whatever got you there, don't get you here. And so I just realized the importance during COVID. And so I just went full force.
And how often does it happen where somebody wants to get real estate, don't have a lot of money, but they just see the upside. They spend all the time on TikTok and social media saying, oh my God, everybody's rich. All they got to do is invest in real estate. And all of a sudden, cold water gets thrown all over them. Like, how often does that happen? And how much coaching do you have to go into before they even invest their first dollar? Like, let's set your expectation.
Well, I think with social media or real estate, it's the same journey of, hey, this ain't going to happen overnight, right? Like, you're going to have to put in time and effort. You're going to have a strategy. You want to go straight into multifamily. You want to go straight into flipping, wholesale. Like, what do you want to do, right? So for me, it's like, if you're going to get coaching, figure out what you first want to do and then just learn it from that person. You're not going to learn it on YouTube. There are people who do, but the amount of people who do strictly off of free content is rare. And those people are already go-getters anyway. So I would even argue that those people, had they had coaching, would have accelerated far faster than just trying to do it for free.
Yeah. And I see a ton of people on the side of like YouTube content. So with our content marketing agency focus, you know, a lot of people we work with are influencers, experts, leaders, but we also are repurposing the podcast piece of it, right? So like you said, a lot of people were going to YouTube and podcasting, and there was over, I think it was like 440 million podcasts. I think it was like 40 million extra like that year was added on. And it was like over 200 million podcasts in 2020. So you can imagine how many we've gotten now in the last 3 years. Yeah. But what we've seen though is the fact that, yes, he saw like content creators and things like that, but other experts and people started going to YouTube as well that actually had businesses. So we were able to implement, you know, their offers into YouTube, into different things too. And so it was cool to see like how people can actually build their presence online when they have offers. And
I liked what Ryan said, because it's so true. I mean, I got on social media, May of 2022, my staff said, you need to get on social media. And I saw Ryan on social media, and I like what he said is you can be an expert, get on social media after you've been established, and then really offer your value and education, which is what we're doing with my brand. And so it was so well said, because we were like, what do you mean we got to get on social media?
There's a lot of people that just hadn't been on social media yet. We were working with brick and mortar companies that were like, social media. So they were like, no, we're like dinosaurs. but we saw a lot of people grow in that time, and it also got people out of their comfort zone too, to get more comfortable on camera and things like that.
Is rising interest rate, is that affecting the wholesale business? How is the economy impacting the wholesale business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. The last year as a flipper / wholesaler, it's been rough. You know, we lost money on deals. You know, like it's just been a much harder market. But I mean, now in the single family space, there's still low inventory. So like things are moving. And I think we're just kind of in this gridlock where if they do drop rates, it's just going to make demand even higher. So it's just kind of is what it is now. But to get to this point, you know, it was hard.
And what markets are you focusing on? Just here in Las Vegas, or are you branching out?
So on the flipping and wholesaling side, mainly here in Vegas, as we launch this new program with our students, that'll be nationwide since we're just predominantly wholesaling, so we can do it anywhere. You know, on the multifamily side, we now have over 600 units. And so those are outside of Vegas, mainly in the Midwest. But yeah, I mean, wholesaling's great. I love it for anybody getting started. You know, it's just at what level do you want to grow? I mean, you could have a wholesale business, make a few million every single year, and just do it on auto.
So a lot of the audience might not know what wholesaling specifically is. Explain to everyone just like a general statement of what really wholesaling is when in the single family realm.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people, they see the house flipping shows. And so it's like, oh, you buy a house for cheap, you fix it up, you sell it for a profit. A wholesaler only does the first step. And so these guys find houses for cheap, get great deals, but instead of buying it, fixing it up, and selling it, they just immediately sell it to whoever's going to flip it, guy like me or a buy and hold guy, whatever. Now, the cool thing about wholesaling is you don't actually have to buy it to then go sell it to the end investor. You can actually just assign the contract to, you know, a guy like me and make a fee for doing that. And so you get paid. I mean, it's the fastest way to get paid in real estate easily.
What in your success, you've had so much success and ups and downs. Where do you go when you know you're not good at something? Do you go look for coaching, or do you have executives that you have on your payroll that you're like, you know what, they're smarter than me. Let me double down on their knowledge because I can't get out of my own way right now and I need support. Like, how do you do? Because everybody looks at someone like you on social media or people that are successful and like, oh, that's so easy and he's got it all figured out. And they don't see the dark work, as Anthony says. How do you do that?
Yeah, so I think that for me, you got to first determine whether or not this is a skill you need to learn. And so there are skills that immediately I know I don't need. They don't really serve me. And so I'm going to just go hire somebody else to do it. Good one of this would be construction. I've never swung a hammer. I don't know how plumbing works. I couldn't tell you how to fix a toilet, and I don't really care to. yet we've had a lot of success in real estate. I just need to know what it costs and how long it should take. So, in those cases, let me just go hire somebody to go do that. On the other hand, there are skills that I do need to learn, okay? If I think content creation is something that's going to be massive the rest of my life, I better get good at it. There's only one me on camera, right? Like there's nobody else that can do it. So learning to speak, learning to lead, learning to create content, those are all really important skills for me. I would also say that a skill I've had to learn is marketing. It's like, well, at the end of the day, every company is going to rise or fall, or every company is going to be capped by their marketing ability. And so I'm constantly trying to think, how can I become a better marketer and what can I learn? Because, having the ability to market opens you up for literally any industry. It's like, I get people in all aspects of industry. They're like, dude, how do I build my personal brand? How do I scale my company? What should I do with these ads? How can I create better funnels and all this stuff? And it's like, all right, that's obviously an important skill, a skill that people are either willing to pay you for to do it or just give you equity in their company. And so it's like now, we're acquiring a company a month and I don't pay anything for it, because they want a skill that isn't easily attainable.
I love the thought that you brought up consulting for equity, because I know Roland taught me that method and a lot of different things like that. And so we were going into different things like that for actually picking up and acquiring other podcast content marketing agencies as well and distribution companies. And so it's a great way to be able to step into that mold. And I think a lot of people just don't think like that. And it's something that's, I know you've been doing it as well too for I think other marketing companies you had mentioned. So
yeah, and it's not that I even thought about it. It's just like when you develop skills, people start to ask you for them. It's like, I never wanted to coach people, I didn't want an education company, but it was like, dude, please teach me how to flip houses. And I'm like, dude, if this many people really want to do it, let's go. And then all of a sudden you learn that you love it. Like I did not love it initially. I'm like, I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to do social media. I want to just run my business and chill. But you realize after you go through it, you're like, actually, I do like this. I do like helping people. I do like being known and having status. You just realize you like these things once you experience it.
When I first pitched my company, the Travel Channel, I wasn't the host on Hotel Impossible. I was the producer. I didn't want to be the host. And they're like, well, when you're in the room, you're the only person that can talk to this. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of people who goes, you're the only person who can do it on camera. I didn't want to do it. I went kicking and screaming to do it. And then when you do it, all those things happen. I was like, oh, I like how it scales up and it helps everything else in my career and my business. And, no one was giving a 40-year-old bald guy a TV show. So you had to work hard to keep it.
Yep.
But it's true. And then you're like, you go kicking and screaming, but you realize, oh, I have a knack for this. And then all of a sudden it just fills all the other cups in your business.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time too. They're like, they make excuses for not wanting to start a podcast or whatever. I'm too old. I don't know how to speak. I'm bald, whatever. Right. And I'm like, dude, how many examples of what you just named kill it? Joe Rogan is bald. I don't know how old he is.
He's 55.
He's 55.
He's a little younger than me.
Yeah, I don't know. He's killing it pretty good.
I had a call with, I don't think he'll get mad for me saying this. Mark Summers from Double Dare from Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
Well, he calls me up. We're friends. And he calls me up and he said, everybody's telling me to do a podcast. I was like, please listen to me. I always ask you for advice. I'm going to give you advice. Shut up and do it. Yeah. Whatever they want you to do. Don't think about anything else, the money, whatever. Just think about it. He just had Howie Mandel. He just had all these people that he knows. And they're fascinating podcasts. And he didn't realize it. And now his podcast is blowing up. But he just needed to just put a mic in front of him and he's magic.
You want to know why people don't do it beyond just fear and false beliefs? This is my conclusion, is when I was looking at the landscape in 2020, you had these guys who were professional content creators, right? And that's how they made their money. And, so that was their craft that they got really good at. Then you had entrepreneurs, people who, made their money in whatever their business was. And that's their craft. That's what they're good at. Two completely different skill sets, right? Here's the problem that I've found is that the content creators don't, they've never learned business and they don't care to because they're making so much money making content. The business owners who are successful are also making a lot of money. And so they don't feel the need to go learn this side. But then when you look at the people who bridge the gap, the biggest entrepreneurs you see on social media, those are the guys who just destroy it over everybody because they realized both are equally important. And if you can merge them, you kill it. So the hard thing is for the entrepreneur who's doing well to look at social media and say, man, dude, I mean, like, I'm already doing great. This isn't going to give me an ROI off the bat. It won't. I mean, it's just going to be a waste of your time. It's a long-term play of like, hey, if you stick with it for years, it will be worth your time. It will supersede what you currently do, but you've got to stay with it. And you've got to be willing to be humble enough, then a pride thing comes into play where people are going to look at you and you're going to suck. And, you're not used to sucking. You're used to being top dog where everyone respects you. And now you're talking and stumbling and you get 0 views. It's embarrassing. And there's this whole ego thing that prevents them from doing it.
That's a really good point. When you mentioned Joe Rogan, he started on his couch in his basement and it was horrible. If you go back to his first podcast, and now he gets $100 million deal from Spotify, and all he's doing is talking. But he knows his stuff. And sometimes I shut him off because sometimes I don't like what he's talking about. But I learn a lot from different subjects because you can talk to an astrophysicist or you can talk to, I'm a UFC guy, I like watching UFC. But he stuck with it, and not everybody's going to like all the content. Just take what you want. But you have to do your job every day. And that's in building content. And, you've helped me a lot in this area. I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I don't want to pay attention to it.
But he is a one-hit wonder. You're like, he rolls with it, boom, one take on all content.
But I've realized it's important. I remember when we were getting on TikTok, and I was just like, the thing I know how to do well is how to tie a tie. And I know a lot of people call me to say how to tie a tie. I just did I'm in the hotel business, but like 1.5 million views within what? Like a day? It was like ridiculous.
Like well, yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm addicted.
Well, he started with like 200 subscribers. He was putting up random stuff. He's like, do you think I could do well on TikTok? I'm like, of course you can.
Yeah, we have 50,000. Like,
yeah,
but I
he
got
had like
addicted
40,000 in less than 60 days subscribers. And the content just kept going. And the more that he was consistent, it just showed.
And then I took a break from it because I was doing other things. And I was like, oh, I realized I can't just fake this. I got to really do this. But
I like what Ryan said, because when I started my podcast, I remember we started May 31st of 2022, and the first 2 episodes just sucked. And my assistant looked at me and she goes, what do you think? I go, I don't know. She goes, you never give up on anything. She goes, you will just
you own it.
Yeah. She goes, there's no way in hell you're going to give up on this. I go, I know, but I said, this is not a good start. And
you're crushing it now.
I think we're about 130 episodes in. So
yeah, you're crushing it.
Yeah, what he said was funny because we went through the same thing. Like, oh God,
just about showing up and starting.
Is anyone going to listen to this thing?
Is this thing on?
Right. We were just like, oh, this is a cool studio. And he said something that I really appreciated was because you do spend money on social media. So like when you're an expert in a business and I'm in commercial real estate, I walk into social media and I see my kids on it and they're thriving on it. I see friends and I see Ryan, all these different people just doing incredibly well on social media. And knowing and saying, look, your first reel, your first video is not going to go as well. And you have to be able to go through that maturation process, that learning curve and grow, and you do every day. And so I really appreciate what he said because I went through that. I said, okay, this is going to be a process. It is a long game. And so, because I see Ryan's following, I'm like, how do you get there so fast? How do you do it? What are some tricks that you can educate some folks out there on how to really grow your following and content?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a long-term thing, right? So you got to already have a long-term mindset with it. It's like, I just knew when I started playing baseball when I was a kid, I'm like, hey, maybe one day I'll be in the big leagues when I'm 20 years from now. You have a 20-year mindset. And even with real estate investing, you buy commercial. You're like, look, we ain't making money on this for the next 5 years, right? Till we exit, we ain't making money. And that's long-term mindset. Social media is no different. And then, just as you're running a business day to day, you realize how much you fail. It's like, man, we talk to 99% of sellers and they don't end up being a deal. They just tell you no. You make 99 videos and you might get one that goes viral that gets 1 million. And you're like, man, I mean, it's just the law of doing anything. You just got to put out a ton of volume, because with volume comes skill, right? You can't get skill without volume. So skill comes from having the right strategy in the beginning and then doing it over and over again. If you don't have the right strategy and you do the wrong thing over and over again, all you do is develop bad habits. And so you need strategy, then you need volume, and then you need refinement. And, that's why in sports, we watch tape. It's like, all right, how did I do? What could I have did better? Was I using filler words? Did I speak too long? Did I cut the guest off? You just start to analyze it the way you would as an athlete. So I think for me, being an athlete kind of like prepared me for what it was going to take to do this successfully. And I was also already used to criticism and stuff, and people watching you from the stands and judging you and whatever else, and just knowing you got to perform.
What's amazing about baseball is, you go 1 for 3, you're a Hall of Famer, superstar. So I have to imagine real estate with flipping houses and wholesaling. I mean, it's the same mindset. It's like you said, I'm not going to get every deal. I see in my businesses, no, 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 yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's the same with you as well. And I'm sure baseball had a tremendous impact to have that patience and know, like, okay, I'm not going to hit everything out of the ballpark. If I can hit some singles, great. And I'll just keep going and keep staying persistent and consistent, and I'll create great success.
Yeah. And just having, I don't want to say realistic expectations, but having the awareness to know where you're at today, because there are a lot of people who, they're not in real estate for 30 years, right? So they don't have that much success. They're like, should I get into social media? I'm like, yes, you should. Now, is everyone going to listen to you? No, you haven't earned the right to be listened to. That's the reality of the situation. Like, I had an 18-year-old kid ask me this. He's like, dude, I want to be an influencer. I want to create content. I go, great. What are you going to make content on? He's like, I'm going to make business content. And I go, so let me ask you a question. Why would I listen to you? Like, I'm not like trying to be offensive, but why would I listen to you? Oh, well, I'm like, yeah, you don't know anything. Why would I listen to you? He goes, what if I interview people who have done good stuff? I go, great. Nobody's listening to you. They're listening to them. You're a content creator. You're not a business guy. So tell me, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a content creator, or do you want to be a business guy? He's like, business guy. I go, great. Go grind out the next 10 years. Go earn your stripes, and then you can talk with authority about your business. And that's one of the big things I see with content that's interesting. Like, I actually wrote down a list of 10 things that determine how big you can be on social media. I can't recite all 10 off the top of my head, but I can tell you a few of them that really make the difference. Like, why is it that Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and these guys are so well known, right? And why is it that others aren't, and they fail? And there's a lot of characteristics that dictate this, but the first characteristic is track record, right? You will hit a ceiling based on your track record of success. So if you're a millionaire, it's like, yeah, I mean, people who are millionaires will listen to you, or who are not there yet, right? Or people who are at your level. But, that's it, okay? But you got to remember, you're also competing with people who are decamillionaires, centimillionaires, billionaires. And so who are they going to listen to, you or them, right? If all things being equal, you're going to listen to the person with better track record, okay? Yeah.
Well, and you've seen that too, because Grant Cardone's been doing this for, 10 years now. I've seen like 10X, and then you got Gary Vee that started with the wine company and then going into social media and stuff like that. But
what they both have in common.
Yeah.
And I happen to know Grant. I've spent time with him. I thought I can outwork everybody. Mm-hmm. I'm in the amateurs compared to Grant. I'm in the amateurs.
Like, go.
I think there's video on Grant at 4:00 in the morning, and he's speaking. He's sleeping, but somehow he's still doing content. He grinds it. And I don't know how he does it, but I remember one day we were actually flying into Vegas. I'm on Delta in first class thinking I've somehow made it. And I see that he's in Vegas, and he mentioned something. And I go, hey, I'll meet you at the blackjack table. And he was flying commercial. I mean, he was flying private on his own jet, and I was flying on Delta. I was like, there's levels to this game. There's level to this game. But I want to get back to, which I think is really critical and important. You did not have coming up in this business, you could not be president of your own production company. It was impossible. You had to get a script and outline, whatever, and go to whoever these people are in Hollywood to get you on TV, to get you noticed, or to spend $1 million in marketing. We have everything we need. We have everything we need. And to me, when I'm talking to young people coming up, it's like, we didn't have this. You have this. You just got to get good at it, or get people that are really, or pay people that are really good at it to help you do it. But let's understand, this didn't exist. You know, the other day I was talking to my daughter and I said, well, I didn't have GPS when I was a kid. She goes, how would you get from point A to point B? I said, I go in the gas station and ask my friend John, hey, John, how do you get to the restaurant 3 miles away? And you get lost for an hour and then you finally find the restaurant. Or you read a map. I don't know how to read maps, and because I'm from Brooklyn. And but my point being is, all this technology is there. You are in charge of that technology. If you just learn it, like you said, know what you need to learn. You need to learn how to be good at social media.
Let me add to that too. But it's like Ryan said, is just imagine this when we were kids. Like, instead of going to the library and microfiche and encyclopedias and all the things we had to do when we were younger.
We have access to so much more now.
Look at social media. Like, I get direct messages all the time. How do I do this? How do I do that? If you could tap into someone like Ryan or anyone out there or us.
Look what we're doing right now.
Right.
Just 15 years ago.
It's unbelievable. So the fact is that, like, I even say this to my kids, I go, the fact is, like, go find a coach, go find a mentor, go ask someone a question, put yourself out there. And the fact that with social media, one of the beautiful things about this environment, social media, the positives, is that you can get so high on the learning curve compared to you used to. So you can accelerate your career. And it's an incredible thing with social media.
Once you have the clarity and the focus, you have the tools, you can do stuff with your smartphone, you can rent a studio, whatever that looks like. You know, that's really what it is. And Ryan's a great example.
Hear what Ryan said, which I thought was really well said, is that you leverage into people. For example, when I started on social, I had no idea social media. I remember I came to you and I said to you, Tamara, I said, what are we doing here? And you're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this, and just follow my lead. And I agree with them. It's like, tap yourself into people that have been there and done that and get you higher on the learning curve. You'll see tremendous success.
Wow. Please, can you jump in?
I was trying to jump in, but
well, let's have this.
So interesting. I just have
we're running out of time, but I want to wrap up with you.
Who's your mentor? Yeah. Do you have any? Do you have more than one? Do you have none?
I have a lot of mentors. I would say, I mean, like, I've been in different masterminds and things over the years, but you know, I've been fortunate enough now to like have a relationship with so many of these guys we're talking about. And so being able to go spend time and text literally like the top of the top guys whenever I have an issue is probably more valuable than like a formal, hey, we meet every week and we do this thing. Yeah, like that's helped me the most.
And they respond, which is fantastic. Yeah. You DM Grant on his, and he doesn't know who you are. He's getting back to you. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I go, who's that? He goes, I don't know. And you got back to him? I said, of course.
I think the top of the food chain does get back to you. Reed Hastings has responded to me when I've talked to
many people, and people are like, how did you get in touch with that person? I reached out. I followed up. You know, I was the persistent.
They even answered the phone.
I offered value. I hired them. Whatever that looks like, you do what you got to do to connect with those that you feel called to connect with. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. And I know we're out of time for the rest of this episode, but I do appreciate you coming in here today. If there's any last thought to share with the audience on what we were kind of touch base on, what would you say?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, it's worth it. It's a long-term game. This thing we're talking about with social media and any business is long-term, right? And you know, the mentorship, all that stuff, super important, like we're saying. But I think the bigger thing is you just got to have faith in what you're doing. Because if you don't really believe in it, you're like, oh, well, I think this thing could be good. You know, he does it and whatever. And then you do 2 episodes and you're like, oh, I'm not good at this. Like, well, you just didn't really have.
You have to enjoy it too. Like, make sure you're actually passionate about the topics or the people that you're actually connecting to. Because if you're just doing it, like, that's just a reoccurring thing to do, and you've done 8-10 episodes and there's nothing there and you don't feel good about it, it's like, why invest in that?
Yeah. But I would also say you got to give yourself enough runway. So I would just say, hey, I'm going to do 30 episodes, no matter what. And whatever happens. And then I'll reevaluate.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for stopping in the studio. And those of you that are watching online, please subscribe, ring that bell, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you in the next episode.